Anyway, I got me some Brahms dipping sauce and some ranch from KFC. I went to both of these places and asked for some free dipping sauce. They said, sure, I'll give you some. I said, all right, great, because I'm taking it with me and eating it with my chicken I got at the house. I've already got out of my free air fryer. I didn't pay $1 for that fucking air fryer. The same day I got that air fryer, I found some money outside on the ground. That air fryer was $66. I walked outside to pick that air fryer up. Walked outside anyway. There's some money laying on the ground. So I picked it up. 5 minutes later, a guy comes by and gives me that fucking air fryer. That was a good day. I'm down here helping a guy. Well, this is what happened. I was going shopping at the 5th of the month for food stamps. Going to shop for some food. So I go down here to Price Mart to go get me some food. As I'm walking out of Price Mart, a guy walks up behind me in a red truck. Walks up behind me. Hey man, could you give me a jump? I said, for $5, I'll go get some jumper cables, come back and give you a jump. He says, okay, great, all I got's $4. I said, I'll take that when I get back with the jumper cables to give you a jump. Next thing you know, he's like, okay, that's cool. Well, we ended up trying to jump his car. His car wouldn't jump, so I said, man, I'll help you. I ended up out at his place looking at a truck, picked up a free Nintendo, sold it for $100, it's supposed to have been $175, sold it for $105. That was a good day. What does that have to do with this? Well, this is KFC and this is Brahms. In one hand you got the light blue and white, and the other hand you got the green and white. Down here you got, what is this? Is that white chicken? That's albino chicken right there, bud. On a blue plastic lid. But anyway, Rogers County got hit by a tornado, in case you guys didn't know. Today's the 28th. February's only got 28 days in it. My $41 Oklahoma card says my last payment was made on the 28th of $41, so I call it now at midnight. The $41 ain't on there. But tomorrow is the 1st. Go get a fucking job, go to work, keep money in your pocket, take care of your kids, and don't let them fucking believe TV, and don't even watch TV, because the only thing people's talking about is drugs. At first, this is how it goes. Injured, drugged, and diseased. That's the only thing sweeping across the middle of the 50 states that we live in. All because of them peoples over there just doing this. Blah, 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 blah. It's all visual. Blah, 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 blah. Chemicals you're buying and shit. That's all it is, bud. And you think I believe something different? You just don't know where I've been. I've been in the ranch from Brahms. I've been in the ranch from Brahms. I've been out there with that Brahms ice cream in the ranch. Not eating no chicken. Now I'm just devouring food and shit. I don't even want meat right now. I don't even want meat. All I want to eat is fucking salad, vegetables, and water and fruit. Can't even eat fucking meat right now. He thinks you're going somewhere. This ranch, I don't think it's as good as that one. I had to pick some more of these up on the way back home though. There you go, talking about cutting people up. So I went to KFC to get this. I pull up to the drive-thru. A fat white girl with glasses walks up. I say, hey, can I get some sauce? Behind that lady was a black guy. Seen me pull up that quick, sitting there, you know, he's like, hey man, I like your tattoos. You look real buff, man. Are you working out? I said, no man, it's all natural, bud. Cause I'm not working out. And that's really what happened today. After I made my french fries and chicken strips, my grandmother stopped by. We went to Brahms. And I got home, I had my french fries and everything made, and I'm like, well, hell, I'm going back down there and getting me some dipping sauce. So I ran down to Brahms and KFC and picked up some dipping sauce. And all this bitch is talking about is how to associate people. That's all that bitch is in there talking about. That's all this bitch is talking about. Yeah, I like this one better. This KFC. I like it better. Oh. And then I'm trying to, my mom, she goes, oh, it's his best friend last night on the phone. I'm like half asleep. She woke me up by calling me again. It's his best friend, Black James. Trap's his name. Trap. Black James is his best friend. All that shit's all stimulant, beady-eyed bullshit. And I'm like, hey, motherfucker's best friend. Anyway, I got company. I'll call you back. And the bitch ain't never called me back. So I just sent her a message and said, don't call me back. I'm tired of talking to you. If you had 2 restaurants, you end up smoking meth, getting pulled over on 4th of July in the middle of Oklahoma at some black guy's named James house with your fucking daughter knocked up by a black guy. Out, these people keep chanting these names from TV. They're all outside Tinker. They're all fucking drug heads. I've been on drugs for 20 years, but I'm sober now. And you ain't got nothing. 3-3 split. And then you got my dad dying. My dad's name wasn't fucking James. He died. Somebody went in there. They took a 22, they took a shotgun, they took a 40 cal pistol, they took all my dad's marijuana seeds, they took my drawn thing. It was a fucking booklet I drew. It was called The Alien Who Was Trying to Learn Flames. This is from 2nd grade in school, at DPU school out there in 2nd grade. I drew it. A little alien on the front, had little spikes coming out his head. Spikes all over. He had 3 hands, 3 toes and shit like a fucking Ninja Turtle. It doesn't matter. But none of that shit was found, you know. But he died. She's gonna die. I'm gonna die. What does that have to do with being in the state of Oklahoma? Every fucking thing. Them dudes are drug suppliers, what they are. Playing with injury, drugs, and disease. Oh. Listen to them. And people's children's listening to the shit these motherfucking people that's degenerates out there saying, and your kids are listening to the shit that's on TV. This chicken came from the Presbyterian Church pantry. Right here. Not the white color. That's the flour. The Hudson cream flour. But this came from the church pantry. We ain't living large. But I'll be wearing my gold teeth my dad bought me. Whatever you want to believe. Because my dad bought me mine. Yeah. Last thing my dad taught me was to remember to live. Oh yeah. So Yeah, I don't like this one. It's good. This is the Brahms. I'm about to start growing mushrooms. That's all I was talking about. Strip it out. Next thing you know, they're gonna be tying off your kids and shit. That shit's bad. Then you got Parkinson's, dementia, liver failure, kidney failure, lung cancer, all that bullshit. Stroke, all that bullshit. Then there's somebody gonna come up to you tomorrow and they're gonna make contact with you. How are you? You doing good? All eyeball, all eye contact. Can't even look left, can't look right. I used to make phone calls as a kid to people from the age of like 12 to whenever. I'm not afraid to go anywhere. They can come convict me of making harassing sexual harassment phone calls to people. I've done that from the time I was 12 to whenever. I ain't worried about it. Yeah. While you're on meth, while you're on drugs, while all that parasitic shit is taking place. You gotta breathe in the nose, breathe out the mouth. Breathe in the mouth. Breathe out the nose, man. That way you can beat the fuck out of somebody tomorrow. Run and get the fuck out of there. I'm talking about, I look big, dude. I look like a sick, fucking broke down, just sick person. That's what I look like. Motherfucker. Anyway, this is KFC. That was Brahms. KFC, better than Brahms, for sure. It's got a more tangy flavor. This is more like a, kind of like a plasticky, light plastic creamy flavor. This one here has got the, yeah, it's got a more tangy, creamy flavor. You don't live with me, my man. You wonder why nobody likes me. Everybody hates Chris. Man, when I was like 12 and a half, 13 years old, when my mom was, this was after she tried to come to my dad's house and take me and my brother from my dad, showed up with that guy Patrick out to my dad's house and came in there. He was in a trench coat, come in the house and shit all drunk. She was with him. They drove from the city trying to get me and my brother from my dad. Anyway, this was after that. So after all that settled, a year or two went by. Ended up there in Oklahoma City off of the highway in one of them apartment complexes. And so it was me and that guy Patrick's nephew, Chris was his name. He tried to message me on Facebook. I don't want to talk to that guy. He snuck in my house and put a gun to my head, 9mm gun to my head whenever I was sleeping on 5th Street in Midwest City. So ever since then, I want to kill that guy. So anyway, so I'm out there with him. We're like skateboarding or whatever, and we're sitting on the car taking a break, and looking out in front of us like on the other side, associated with like another one of these fenced in areas with a gate like this outside. But we're sitting there on the car. Anyway, next thing you know, you see a black guy chasing a Mexican guy. He turns, he's got FBI on his shirt. He's chasing that black guy around. Here comes his partner, pulls up in the Ford, one of them old little Ford kind of rounded cars. Pulls up. Anyway, they catch that guy. He's trying to juke him and shit and outrun him and going left and right. And he's trying to shake him. And he's looking dead at me while he's fucking shaking back and forth, you know, trying to shake him and shit. Anyway, they caught him. FBI caught him. They said, stay in school. Or whatever they said. Stay in school or don't do drugs or whatever it was, as they were driving this way with the Mexican guy in the back seat, driver's side window rolled down with the black guy driving with his glasses on, bald head, and the white person in the other side looking too. All that really happened. So that all happened when that guy Patrick ran the Marino's Pizza Place on whatever street that was out there up in Oklahoma City. Listen to him. They just don't have enough balls to shut the shit down. And anyway, I've already explained the stuff about people getting shot. And there's people that's gonna get shot. I'm just trying to get my shit taken care of legally. That way I can say, what's up, motherfucker? Now, whatever happens, happens. Shit. I ain't worried about it. I said I don't want my children being born with hoofed feet, cleft mouth, fucking cleft lips, fucking hot heads sunk in, arms sewn to their fucking chest and shit. All that comes from the women putting chemicals all over their bodies, eating bad, drinking soda pop, you know, being injected with shit. That's all that shit's from. And then you got people, you know, having sex and then all that drugs and disease and shit. And then you still got this visual going on where that guy's talking, and then people are, those people are, and whatever they're doing. I'm telling you, all self-defense. It's all self-defense, bud. Like me, I don't want to hang out with black guys. I don't want to hang out with Mexicans. I like white women. Growing up, I fucked a lot of black girls. I fucked Mexican girls. I fucked Indian girls. But I do not want anything to do with blacks, Mexicans, or any of that shit. I can say anything I want because this is 2023. If everybody jumped off a bridge, are you going to jump off? It doesn't matter. The next person that tries to come into contact with you, I'm telling you. It's like, let me tell you that story about that one. I'll tell you that one. So, back when I was a kid going through grade school, I got to the point where I was real rebellious. That's what you want to call it. And I would tell my dad that I'm going to go stay the night with somebody. I told him I was hanging out with these other kids down the street that was like older guys and shit out in the shed. And they had their own shed and shit. And I told him I was going to go hang out down there and stay the night, which I didn't. I wanted to go to this house party, which my dad kept telling me, stay away from that house. Don't you be over there. Don't let me find out that you're over at that house with them people. And it was when I actually lost my virginity to this one big old fat chick. Anyway, so that's where all the gangbangers and everybody hung out at. So anyway, I ended up going over there. They demolished that house in Deepview, but anyway, I ended up ditching them over there at that house in the shed and shit because they lived outside. We smoked weed, listening to music, and I ditched them, went over there to, you know, that girl's house because I really wanted to hook up with that one chick. Her name was Brittany. So I wanted to hook up with her, and she was like 19, 20, 21, right? And I was like, you know, 12, 13 years old. So, but she had a boyfriend all of a sudden. We was best friends, me and that girl Brittany. We was real cool friends, you know, for a long time. And she was like in her 20s. And that's how I used to go over there, hang out with her, smoke weed. And then one day, she's like, hey, I want you to meet somebody. It was like this guy shows up. He couldn't fucking speak English. He was like speaking, but he couldn't even fucking hardly speak English. He was from fucking Paris or London or wherever. He had one of them weird Londony accents. So anyway, I was like, oh man, you know, but so we'd hang out with them people. We'd be up there. Finally, we was up in the house, upstairs, all the way up, 3-story house up in there, hanging out. This guy had a dog, pit bull dog. We was all smoking weed and shit. And it got down to the night. Anyway, Brittany's best friend was Andrea. So Andrea come over. She got a little drunk, you know. It was like me and Dion's cousin. It was like Dion's cousin. And like, you know, 8 or 9 other people in there. And I'm standing on this couch, leaned up on this couch. That's curved, you know. It's got a curve. Anyway, she's walking around the house, you know, been drinking. She comes up to me and she starts kissing on me, you know. And then after that, me and her went to Brittany's bedroom while Brittany and her boyfriend left. The dudes, they went somewhere else because the guy upstairs had to go to bed. He had to go to work. So, you know, my dad fucking... I don't know how my mom got involved with this, but my mom was down there driving my grandpa's fucking Grand Marquis, the silver one. So he was looking for me that next day because I didn't come home early enough or come home when I was supposed to. And that's because I was up having sex all night with that girl Andrea. So anyway, she pulls my dick out my pants. I'm laying on the bed. She tries to suck my dick. My dick comes back, slaps me in the belly, right? So I had a hard on. And so anyway, we're sitting there on the bed, and like she's, you know, ready. Well, she jumps on the bed, and she pops her ass up, you know, because she wanted to be hit from the back. Well, she was a fat girl with big butt cheeks. So my dick wasn't big enough to get in there. So I didn't have to hit her from the back, right? So I got to hit her on laying on her back. So anyway, so she's laying on her back. We had sex. We got to go on through the night. You know, we woke up and talked to each other. And when we woke up, there's this other guy that came in there while we were sleeping, drunk, and passed out on the floor. Apparently he pissed all over the floor, pissed on himself, pissed all over the floor. His name was Wesley. He peed all over the floor and pissed all over himself. He said he was so drunk couldn't get up and peed all over the floor. So anyway, I ended up back upstairs. And my dad was looking for me. My mom ended up showing up or something. And anyway, I looked out the window 3 stories up on a house they demolished now. And here he goes driving by. And I could see him down there in the car. Yeah. And so that's that. That was that story. Yeah. That was that story. Yeah, I used to hang out with this other kid. And I got to the point where I started like punking on him all the time. Like, we used to be real good friends. His name was Britton was his name. Britton. And I got to this point where I'd hang out with him, and then I got to where I'm like, I don't want to hang out with him anymore because he ain't doing anything very fun. You know, so then I started talking shit to him. And then when I got sober, or got to the point where I was getting sober, I seen him at the convenience store, working at the convenience store, and I went up there and apologized to him for being such a fucking bad guy to him. So anyway, I was hanging out with him, and there was this one girl. Her name was Brianna. So anyway, Brianna lived 3 or 4 houses down from where he lived. So one day he was like, we got to talking about people in the class, and he's like, yeah, Brianna lives over here. And I was like, really? You know, because I'm thinking about girlfriends and stuff at this age. And then, because I used to go hang out with that one girl and walk over to her house in the middle of the night all the time and come back at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, you know. And then, so anyway, he's like, yeah. So anyway, you don't want to talk to her. She's freaky nasty. She pees in cups and stuff, right? So anyway, I was like, yeah, let's go over there. So we go over there, knock on the door. Her mom lets us in. We go in her bedroom, hanging out with her. Anyway, he's like, he took me down there to show me that she had pissed in cups and put them behind the door, you know, along behind the door in like the corner of the room or wherever. And then she was like, looking all funny. But I liked her growing up. I liked her. But anyway, so, and then I got to the point where, you know, I used to hang out with these same dude, one of the same dudes, which was Dion's cousin. I used to hang out with like 2 or 3 of his cousins and then his sister. And then 15 years later, I'm in Oklahoma City at Newcastle Casino walking around. And hell, I come around the corner and bumped right into this girl, ran right into her. It was Dion's sister, Holly. So bumped into her. I was like, hey, what's up? I remember you, you know. And we went from there, went back to her house and smoked a bunch of meth, you know. Done a bunch of drugs, and we had sex. And I never talked to her again. That happened like 3 or 4 times. And but anyway, I used to hang out with from Brianna's house. It was like the next house over. And that's where I used to hang out with Holly and her baby daddy growing up as a kid, you know. And it was whenever I got into fucking, you know, wanting to fuck people up. Because that one guy, he was like, you know, he's one of the baddest fucking dudes in town. You didn't want to fuck with that guy because he'd fucking beat your ass. And, you know, that guy would beat your fucking ass. He'd whoop your ass and somebody else's ass. And he would do it. But anyway, so I'd hang out with her. We'd hang out. Her boyfriend, you know, her baby daddy would come over. And me and him, we was tight. We was cool. Ain't nothing was going on. We was real cool with each other and shit. And because we both like fighting. And I never really got in a fight, but as a kid growing up, my arm wasn't fucked up as bad as it is now, you know. But my arm was fucked up as a kid. It was apparently dislocated or set wrong or whatever, but I still played football. I, you know, still fought people. Like, man, I used to go and beat people up growing up, and all the way up to like 5th and 6th grade. I was like, at one time, my buddy walked up to me and said, hey, you know, this guy's outside, he wants to fight. And I'm out there, you know, I'm out there whooping that guy's ass. And he was 275 pounds, and I was only like $120, $110, you know. But anyway, so, yeah, so back at that house, and then, you know, I was hanging out. I used to hang out with him all the time. Then my buddy Troy, there was a guy named Troy that lived there, and he was like a goth kind of guy. He was had a real depth to him, you know, a goth kind of guy. He was one of my favorite dudes to hang around with. And anyway, there was these 3 Indian dudes. Stephen, what was that? Paul, and Big D, Daryl, Paul, and Stephen. Anyway, I was up in this building up on Main Street inside this like little house that I'm pretty sure it was that white guy that was Brittany's boyfriend from wherever the fuck he come from, like whatever town he came from or wherever country he came from. I'm pretty sure that was his apartment. I'm not mistaken. He lived on Main Street. And because he had that he had that black and red car. Anyway, but so he pulled up there, or we'd be in there, and these three fucking like seniors about to graduate. I'm up in that place, and they all start kicking my ass and shit, like fucking me up. It's like this other guy is from out of town that moved in the apartment. The other guy just came into town, which was the guy Paul. He was a short Indian guy. He just came into town, but he was one of them gangbanger type of dudes. The other guy, Steven, ended up being Stephen Horace. He was an Indian guy. He's one that had the car wreck with Daryl Reed, Jeff Long, Stephen Horace, and Jeff Long, Big D, Stephen Horace, and Tony Coppola. 3 of the 4 people died out there on Dead Man's Curve, headed towards DePew. But anyway, we hung out, fucking got drunk a whole bunch. But anyway, so them dudes was in there beating me up, one day. And my dad put him in check one day. And then my dad pulled up there and he like told him, hey, you fucking, I'll fuck y'all up. My dad was disabled, man, on drugs. So anyway, that bitch is over there just blah, 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 blah over there. So anyway, we get up there to the, over there back to Holly's house, hanging out with Holly. Troy shows up. Oh, Troy shows up. We're at Holly's. It's me, James, White James, Holly's baby daddy, Holly, and Troy, and Brittany. And we're all at that house and hanging out there. And they're like, yeah, man, we heard them dudes was fucking with you, whatever. He's like, I don't like that fucking dude anyway. He's like, I'll beat his ass, He's already graduated. Troy was. He's graduated. He's got that dark depth to him. So, he had them steel-toe boots on and black fucking pants, that black shit on. He fingernails painted and shit. Black hair with his fucking dog collar on. So anyway, he was like, he said, yeah, I heard these fucking guys was fucking with you. I said, yeah, they was up there kicking my fucking ass. And they was and shit. They wouldn't let me leave and shit in that room. They was holding me hostage, wouldn't let me leave and shit. Was beating me up. And because they was all fucked up. They was all whacked out and drunk, high, and just fucking whacked out. And they was all going through their gangbanger phase. Everybody wanted to be Bloods and, whatever. And it was all that. So, anyway, ended up back over there at that house with my people. I was in there hanging out with them. And, so that guy Troy, he comes over there later on, and they were like, here comes Brittany running back in the house. She's like, hey, that guy Paul's outside. Was fucking with Chris. And they're like, oh yeah. And then Troy, he's out the door. They're standing there talking. Boom, boom. I'm standing in the middle of the yard. They're standing there talking. And next thing you know, fucking Troy's beating his ass. He's beating his ass. So the thing was, between us as fucking people, our next thing was to fucking grab you like that and fucking pull your fucking jaw off that's why I'm always like, I'll grab that fucking dog and yank its fucking jaws apart, because we got into that type of shit growing up. And so anyway, Troy beat the hell out of that guy, and that was it. And then Troy moved to another place after that. And that guy, Paul, I think he went to jail for like drugs or something, and then he never came back. And then, like I said, time goes on. We got to partying and shit, and then it was me, Stephen Horace, Matt Henshaw, Stephen Horace, Daniel Murphy, Big D, Daryl Reed, it's dead now. We all fucking was having a real good time. we'd stay the night together a couple times, or however many times it was. Several times. And we'd all hang out. We'd get like ounces of weed. You know, somebody'd show up. I would steal weed. I would always steal my dad's weed. You know, my dad would be like, you know, let me smell your fingers. So every time he'd smell my fingers, he'd be like, I don't know, because I'd clean my hands off and shit. So anyway, he'd want to smell my fingers because I'd steal his roaches and shit off his weed. Or, you know, where he'd roll his weed at growing up as a kid in a trailer house. I'd come across the fucking table and hit the table. I hit the floor like that, and all the weed would come up out of the table. So I'd grab all the weed, and I'd have weed. And then I would have weed because I'd steal weed. And that was from like the 3rd grade to like the 6th grade. Like, because they caught me at DeepU High School in the 6th grade, 7th grade. They caught me. There was another girl that was in the grade higher than me. Her name was Brianna. So Brianna, she really wanted me. She really wanted to be my girlfriend. And we used to have like this little spot they called the dungeon, or they called this little spot this, and they called this, that you would all meet up before you go into school. Best times of my life as a kid also was at the worst times of my life at school. This weird shit was going on. But anyway, so we get there, and she wanted me bad. Well, I got to be in one of them people that's like, you know, hey, y'all want to get high? Y'all want to smoke some weed? So I'd always have weed, and then I'd be like, you know, you want to get high? You want to smoke some weed? And then this person told this person, and she's like, I want some weed. And then I got to where I'm selling people weed in the 5th and 6th grade. This is real life. And so we're writing notes, love notes back and forth to each other. And, you know, one note, I told her, I said, as soon as you get this note, I said, throw that fucking note in the trash. And so Brianna, we're in school, going back and forth. Well, Christopher Lewis, report to the principal's office. And I'm like, oh. I said, what the fuck is this? So anyway, the rooms was on one side of the school, back line of the school. Here's the rooms. Here's the basketball court. You had to go through there, through a catwalk to the school, to where the principal's office was. Anyway, so I'm walking through there thinking, they're like, Christopher Lewis. And I'm walking through the gym, please come to the principal's office. They said it twice. So I'm walking up there and walk in there, and they're like, do you know anything about this? I said, what? They said, this bag of fucking weed. I said, this bag of weed. And I had rolled that bag of weed up in cellophane cigarette box. I'd go find outside, like on the ground, you know, because there are people smoking cigarettes and throwing cigarette boxes. So I'd take the cellophane and put it in the cigarette cellophane, burn the lighter shut, because I had a weed pipe and cigarette lighter, and rolled my shit up and seal it up. And it was a pretty good little size. It was about about this much, you know, about a finger length, rolled up in a cigarette pack, about that much thick. I sold it to her for like 10 or 15, $25, whatever. So they was like, I said, you know what we're talking about? We should call the police right now. We should call the police, but we're going to save you some trouble. We're going to save you some trouble. We're going to send you home or something like that. We're not going to send you home. We know this, we know that. We're not going to send you home. So it gets all hairy in these areas. And then it was like, we're going to save you this trouble. But we know you did it. Because we wrote notes back and forth. They had my note, they had the weed. You know, she's already said she got it from me. And then they was like, so we're going to save you this trouble. So, anyway. I end up having like Saturday school or in-school suspension for 3 days or something like that. And at the same time I had in-school suspension, there was another kid that just came from another school. He was there, and we're all in there. He's been in there for like a month straight, you know, in school suspension. Anyway, he was in there, and then he was like, hey, you want to smoke some weed? I was like, no, man, I don't want to smoke no weed. And then he's like, well, I'm going to smoke some weed. So he opens up the window inside the fucking gym teacher's office for in-school suspension, because that'd be the in-school suspension, because he's one of the guys that whoop your ass, you know. So anyway, he opened up the window, let the window down, and he was over there smoking weed and shit, you know. He had his own little thing running around in there, fucking bouncing off the walls and shit. I guess he had ADHD or something, what they call it. But anyway, he was bouncing off the walls and smoking weed in there, and I was like, this ain't right, yeah. But I just didn't have anything to do with it. I'm like, I ain't doing nothing with this, because they caught me with weed in the 6th grade, 7th grade, selling weed. That's why I was in there. I was in trouble for selling weed, and so then I used to go to Oklahoma City, up there to my dad's house, up there to my mom's. And her and that fucking dude would have like weed and shit, quarter pounds of weed. This is before she got her kids taken by DHS, right? So anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not stimulated by it. It's all visual, parasitic stimulant. My life's already over, dude. I'm sitting here at 32 years old. My life's already over because of technology, parasitic, injury, drugs, whatever. It doesn't matter. So anyway, so I'm there at my mom's anyway, and I got to, you know, where I'm smoking weed, and it's like I used to come home. My dad would smoke weed, and he never would smoke. You know, he would just smoke and try to keep it down. You know, smoking, keeping it down, and never would. You know, you never would see him doing anything. You know, he'd be like, I ain't doing nothing. You know, he never would be involved with nobody, and that's the way I am. I'm not involved with anybody. And so anyway, I had fucking took this quarter pound of fucking weed, about like that, from my mom's house. Whole quarter pound, half a pound of weed. I had took it, and I had taken half of it. I took half of it with me, a quarter pound of it with me, and I bagged it up and took it with me down back to DPU. And I had it on my bunk beds, underneath the bottom of my bunk beds where I had my can of snuff. I had like Skull Cherry snuff, my bag of weed. Well, my dad had a girlfriend in the trailer house. He had his girlfriend. So one day, she never decides to do this before. One day, she decides to go in my fucking bedroom and to clean my bedroom. And for some reason, she's down on the ground looking, because I'm living on the bottom bunk. My brother lived on the top bunk. So I'm living on the bottom bunk where the bottom bunk's got a rail up underneath it, like this table here with a little hook that came on the side of it where it had like a little hand spot. So that's where I'd hide my snuff, something I had was important to me, or this big bag of weed. So I come home because my dad called the school, and I was still in grade school at this time. Was 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade was at one school. So I was still in grade school when this happened. This probably happened way before anything. So anyway, he called up there to the high school after Cindy went in my bedroom and found my weed. So, and my snuff and shit. So my dad calls me up, calls the school up. Mr. Tony Martin's the principal on my thing now. He calls me to the principal's office. Christopher Lewis, please come to the principal's office. So I go to the principal's office. He says, hey, your dad wants you to come home right now. It sounds really important. You better hurry and get home. And we just lived two and a half blocks away. So I'm running home. Ran home all the way down there. Walked in the door. My dad's like, come over here and sit down. my dad's laying on the couch. So I walk in the house. I sat down next to my dad on the couch. He goes, "You know anything about that?" Points at the table. "There's that bag of weed, that can of snuff." I said, "No, I don't know anything about none of that. I don't know anything about that." And he goes, "Well, Cindy was in your bedroom picking up trash, and this fell down from underneath your bed. I don't know how that got there." Well, my mom starts calling. She starts calling down here and calling down here. "Where the fuck's my quarter-pound of marijuana at? Where's the motherfucking quarter-pound of marijuana at?" Well, so I had took half of this quarter-pound of weed and took it to my dad's house. And I'm not going to tell you about the conversation I had with my dad. That's dead. This is irrelevant. So this is between me and my dad. So anyway, so the quarter pound of weed I had broke in half, and my grandmother that was alive in Midwest City, she had a table that with a lamp, a table, and she had a picture box that was made of two halves that put together like this, it's square, that fit together in a square like that. But it was big, it was a square, fit together in two halves. So I took that thing apart and I put that bag of weed in there. And I put that fucking picture photo box right back where it was. So 6 or 7 months went by after everything mellowed out. And see, my brother was younger, so he was off. He was doing something. I don't remember what he was doing. He was off doing his own thing. But anyway, so it was, once I came up to Oklahoma City to get that quarter pound of weed, I was hurrying up there. Well, it had fucking grown a bunch of mold on it, like black fuzz and mold and shit, but I didn't care. I was gonna smoke it. I was like, man, this ain't nothing. It's gonna burn up in the weed, whatever, telling myself, right? So I got there, got that quarter pound of weed, and I was a baller. Baller then, bud. Up in, yeah, balling. So, up there, just balling. So I got there, got that quarter pound of weed, and then I'm like, bring, what's up, man? I'm up here in the city, bud. About to fucking get high over this weed, but I've been had up here for 6 months, man. I'm here. And, yeah. So anyway, I smoked all my cousins out. Smoked them out. And then we was at the park. I said this before, at the park over there next to the regional park. So we're up inside that spaceship smoking that they have right there. It's literally a spaceship with stairs. You go up into it, get inside the spaceship. And we're up there smoking this quarter pound of weed, fucking passing out, waking up, smoking some more weed, passing out, waking up, smoking some more weed, passing out, waking up, smoking some more weed. That's how that went. Then we'd go and play hide and go seek inside the fucking jungle gym area. Anyway, we was walking up there. I was walking up there. They was ahead of me. And hell, I look over to my left. There's this white car with a big shape of a smiley face on the window shield, the windshield. Big yellow smiley face on this white Honda with a big yellow windshield on it. And that motherfucker's just a rocking back and forth and rocking back and forth. Next thing you know, here comes down that fucking windshield thing comes down. There's a dude and this fucking fully nude chick. Fully nude. Butt naked chick. Sitting back down in her seat. And titties hanging out. She's like, oh my God. Ah! Putting on her shirt and shit. I was like, oh, they're fucking. So they put that fucking thing back up, and I was like, hey, I hollered at my cousins and shit, or half cousins, or whatever they was at that time. Hollered at them, and then we went up over there and fucking started banging on their windows, and fucking rocking their car. and all that shit. And then they hurried up and fucking, you could see him with his pants halfway pulled down. The girls in there fucking all trying to put her clothes on. Then they just drove off out of the fucking parking lot. We had a lot of fun times in that parking lot after that, fucking with people. So, anyway, it goes on to that, to hanging out with this Mexican dude. And it's a Mexican dude that had the grill with the fangs, like I got, but he had the top grill. His was fucking bright white, fucking bright white gold. His shit was solid white gold grill with the fangs and shit. And, I mean, his was super bright white gold. Anyway, so I ended up down there because I used to come up to my grandpa and go, hey, can I get $20 to go down the street to get me a t-shirt from the store? All the hood t-shirts that had like the weed on it, the Dickies or shirts they were selling. So anyway, I'm down there on that side, which his little brother, his name was Chris, was a Mexican guy named Chris. It was Raymond, Nathan, and Chris. So anyway, my little brother was up there in Oklahoma City with my bicycle, my little black BMX bike. Well, this was a story I've talked about where the kid had took my brother's bike, which was my bike, and he had said somebody stole your bike, and then I had to go back and get my bike. Well, it was after that long time after that, I'm down there in that area, and so anyway, his older brother, which is Raymond, runs outside, and he's like, heard you was dissing the set, homie. Heard you was dissing the set on 60 Crip. Yeah, heard you was dissing the set. And he had FUCCYOU with a middle finger right here because he was a hardcore Mexican Crip. And ever since that day, we was best fucking friends. I sold more weed with that guy than you can fucking imagine. I seen that guy, we started with like a quarter pound of weed, and we went up, you know. We fucking came up, you know. We went up to having pounds of weed, then we came up to going, you know, there was this blood up the street. His name was Fathead, is what they call him. He's a black blood called Fathead. And anyway, I knew him. I was cool with him. And so anyway, we was up there. I said, man, he's like, I'm looking for some weed. I said, you looking for some weed? I said, you know, hey, holler at Fathead. He's like, maybe I'll do that, which I got him a couple different times. I got him pounds of weed, you know, a couple different times. Whenever we had bought this Cutlass Supreme. It was like a real dark green and gold Cutlass. We had bought that. And, you know, we had the fur coats and shit and all that, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so he is like, so I went up there and he's like, go check him out. He's like, he's your homie. You know, go holler at the Bloods. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I don't want to lose my money. You know what I'm saying? So I went up there. And then after that, you know, I knew him and then I knew his girlfriend. And him and his girlfriend were like ride or die. Fathead and his girlfriend were like ride or die. And that's who I used to buy my weed off later on because he went to prison for shooting somebody in the stomach or whatever the case was. And then I used to hang out with his girlfriend and buy weed off of her. She'd come to wherever I was and sell me weed. So anyway, so me and Raymond went up there and we got back. We was like, man, this is some bullshit. It's bullshit weed. They said bullshit weed. Anyway, we sold it all. We was counting out the money. We had more $1 bills than we had we had the same amount $1 bills as we had in profit, big money amounts. So anyway, we went from there, and then we was just best friends. It was me and them two brothers. You know, that's all we did every day. And then smoking blunts and Philly coconut or Philly banana or Philly, whichever one of them blunts it was. It was like the Philly blunts, the biggest ones you could buy, the Philly ones. And we rolling motherfuckers up that big round. we'd play that fucking NFL Street on PlayStation 2 and shit. So anyway, and went on doing that for a long time, and you know, then I got to where growing up, hell, I'd smoke weed and I'd get all fucking dizzy and sick and be puking and throwing up and shit. Bad news. But anyway. So now, what I'm dealing with right this minute is that person that ain't shutting up over there.